Hey, sister.
Hey, sister.
Join me, Courtney Lewis,
And me, Carly Ferguson,
in our conversational podcast about everyday situations.
You can count on us to tell it to you straight with our own sisterly spin.
Consider this a phone call with your own Southern sisters as we discuss with you personal accountability, healthy relationships, managing responsibilities, and contributing to society.
Each episode will consist of straight talk and a call to action.
Your sisters are calling.
Thanks for answering.
Welcome to Hey Sister. This is episode 14, Social Light. We are so glad y'all have joined us this month as we've kicked off this new year with 4 resolution-themed episodes. Today is our finale for this 4-part series that echoes the same 4 areas we know Jesus Christ himself strived to improve in. We read in Luke 2:52, and Jesus increased in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. Today we're discussing that last part, favor with man, and we'll have Carly introduce y'all to our incredible guest expert.
I had the pleasure of meeting Hanalei coming up on 5 years ago. She carried herself with such grace and confidence and that California coolness that I just wanted to get to know her. We became fast friends in Frisco, and I so miss living close to her now. She's a connector, someone who brings women together, whether for parties, park dates, attending conferences, you name it. I've been impressed by how close she keeps her friends, even if they live states away, by making trips and staying engaged on Instagram. She is a professional social media manager working with influencers and boutique businesses. She received her Bachelor of Arts degree in communications with an emphasis in broadcast journalism. She serves with the youth in her church and motivates these young women to grow and develop themselves. Paramount to all of this, she is a mother to 2 adorable boys, and can I say it?
Sure.
A little girl on the way. She truly exemplifies the title today as she is a social light. With all that, Hanalei, welcome to Hey Sister.
Hey sister. So I actually don't have any sisters, so I'm so honored to be on the Hey Sister podcast. Thanks so much for having me.
We're glad you're here, Hanalei. We're going to claim you as our sister tonight and forever now. So Hanalei, what does favor with man even mean to you? When you hear that scripture, what would that even mean?
Obviously, favor, that's something that you like. Being likable or just being a light to people around you is how I would interpret that.
And when did you first gain a value for improving friendships in your life? Was it something instilled from childhood or?
I would just like to point out that in my introduction, you used the word expert. I don't know if I'm truly an expert at anything because I make mistakes in all areas of life. But I will say I have no memory of when I gained this because my mom said I just came out a yacker and never stopped, and a socialite from kindergarten when she would come to pick me up and I'd be sitting alone away from the other kids because the teacher had to put me at another desk because I wouldn't stop talking and I wouldn't stop trying to play with my friends during class time. So I think that there's definitely a part of it that I was just born with. I just crave being social and crave other people around me at all times. But that is not to say that I have always been the best friend or the best at talking to people. I've definitely gone through a lot of awkward stages like we all have and have learned a lot of lessons and grown. Even though it's something that may come naturally, it's also something that I still am working on. How can I be a better friend and how can I be a better listener and a better communicator, etc.
I appreciate what you just said there and your humility in saying that you don't think you're an expert in this, but I've heard an expert is somebody who loves what they do and they do it well. And a professional is somebody who gets paid to do it well. That's why you're an expert here today, because you do what you do and you love it. And so that makes you an expert at making friends and creating friendships. Wear it proudly. We know that you're the expert to have with us, even though you're being super humble about it. So I'm glad you're here. And also, I love that your mom called you a yacker in kindergarten. I had the opposite. I was known as the expert napper. Apparently, when they would have full day kindergarten, they would roll out these little yoga mats to let the kids sleep. And I would just lay down for the nap and they would have to pull me off to the side and I would miss the whole rest of kindergarten because I would just nap through the whole rest of class. So you were developing friendships. I was getting in my sleep.
Hanalei,
I've lost a lot of sleep because of my friendships.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
So what obstacles have you overcome to pursue improvement in this area?
So of course, I have not always been the perfect friend. And a specific time I remember in 6th grade, and maybe this also comes with my upbringing. I grew up with 3 boisterous brothers and interacting with them my whole life and having close girl friendships. As you get older, especially in that 6th grade, you start to get cliques. Girls start to pull away from the boys. And I was kind of a tomboy up until this point. This is the time where I started wearing pink and bell bottoms instead of baggy pants. I was really trying to get into that girl groove. And I guess I hadn't developed my communication skills well yet, because one day they would call me all the time during the show that I wanted to watch. And one time they realized that I wasn't even listening to them. I was watching my show while I was on a three-way call. You know, three-way calls are super cool in the 90s. I'm a 90s kid. And one day I got a call from them and they just said, "We aren't talking to you anymore." And that's all. They didn't explain. I gathered later, oh, I probably was not a very good listener at all. They were probably like trying to talk to me about stuff. And I was watching a show. And instead of just telling them I was busy, I was just trying to do both. And it was, I don't even know how long, maybe several weeks. It was my first and very bold experience with bullying. They convinced everyone not to talk to me in my grade. And it was a really traumatic time. I remember coming home just crying, and I missed a couple of days of school because I was like, I can't even go there. They convinced everyone to not talk to me. And I ended up making friends with a girl that I'd known the grade below me. And I just started hanging out with her every day at recess. A month or two went by and I would slowly go up to someone. And even though I know they were supposed to talk to me, I would go up to a friend that I once had and just start talking to them. And one day I had a class with one girl and she said, "I am so sorry for the way everyone's treated you. I don't know why I went along with it. And I totally want to be friends." So I could have accepted defeat, retreated, and been like, oh, friends aren't for me. I'm not a social person, and just let that be the end of the story. But I did try to continue to reach out to other people that would talk to me, like this fifth grader. And we became such best friends for years and years through high school, and even talking to other girls. And eventually I became back in the group. And I don't know, the drama is so weird. You go in and out of groups. And anyways, that was one major area. But one other aspect when I was in middle school, which I have lots of stories from middle school. I think we all do. Talking to boys, it was totally different than talking to my brother's friends or my brothers, like a boy that I like or a boy that was like cute, even though I didn't like him. And I had a friend that was so good at talking to boys. And I just was so blown away. And I remember mentioning it to her. How are you so comfortable and casual and you don't say like so many dumb things and they laugh out of your jokes? How do you do this? And she used to tutor me after school. I'd go to her house and she'd be like, "Okay, let's practice. Ask me a question about my game later today," or something. Like, she was so good. So I think number one, when something bad happens to you, don't let that ruin your confidence and get back out there. And number two, if you have someone that's like a role model that you look up to that does this super well, go to them and ask them, "How do you do this?" People love being complimented. "You're so amazing at talking to boys. Like, how do you do it? Please show me. Please teach me your ways." And then I would say the third thing is you got to go out and do it. I practiced on boys and failed many times. I think I maybe got pretty good at it because I'm now married. At some point, I think it worked. But yeah, those are just a few things that I've gone through in my past that I think have helped.
And I think that's also the literal interpretation of favor with man, right? So you've done both.
One man.
That's good.
Gotta find one man, but
and obstacles, really, middle school is an obstacle. I don't know if any of our listeners or sisters are in middle school currently, but we feel for you. It is not a fun place to be. It gets better. Mm-hmm.
Hanalei, as a sixth grader, the fact that you were able to take some onus and say, I was not listening to them when they called. For you to accept that, whereas I think today, a lot of people, we would see that their moms would say, "Oh, well, then you don't need to talk back to them and you're going to make other friends and we're going to host a party and not invite them." And it would become this whole clash. The fact that you went and you started making other friends and one by one trying to earn people's trust again, kudos to you, because there are so many kids who would not do that. That is an attitude of go-getter. I'm not going to be kept down by this. And I know, speaking of your second piece of advice, is to team up with somebody and get help in an area if you feel like you're not strong in it. And I know that's something that Carly has specifically told me that you have a huge strength in. So if that was an obstacle that you overcame as a middle schooler, trying to, at that time, maybe be able to talk better to boys, but also as an adult grown woman, sometimes it's hard to make friends because you've got these little kids and trying to do play dates with other people is difficult. And so when Carly would tell me that the two of y'all would team up and do a girls' night or a play date together, having that buddy to do something with gives you that extra gust of courage. I love everything you said.
No idea how much I learned from Carly about party planning, about prepping, about organization. Oh yeah, I've come away a better friend just from knowing Carly. Definitely.
I agree. I agree. I'm gonna just piggyback on that too.
Next question. We've kind of been talking about it, but how has the pursuit of improving in favor with man helped you develop into the woman you want to be?
When I was in, grade school, younger, I remember noticing other girls' handwriting, their cursive or just the way they would write. Weird fonts were cool back in the 90s. I just remember loving how other people wrote. And if I saw a penmanship that I liked, I remember I would copy it over and over again and try and do that. And I honestly feel like my handwriting today is little pieces of over the years seeing handwriting that I liked. And I just adapted it and it kind of became my identity. But a piece of someone else's handwriting is in my handwriting, but it's also my own handwriting, if that makes any sense. And I feel that way about all my friends, even if I'm not close to them, but have made an impact on my life through the years. I feel like a piece of them or their goodness or their light or their personality has latched onto my personality and made me who I am. So I'm individual from them, but I'm also pieces of all of them through the years. I can think of so many little lessons that I've learned and I've changed because of knowing each person who I've been honored to be friends with throughout my life. Definitely all the women have contributed to who I am today.
Just to that, as you were saying it, I imagined Little Mermaid, the scene where she's like in her cave and she's got her precious things that she's collected and she looks at and she's like, oh, I just feel like friendships that you kind of collect. And that sounds weird. It's not like the people. It's like
a great description.
Everyone is special to you and it's unique to that friend. And that's what's really cool. I do think for me, when you were talking about your middle school experience and how you were like, no, I'm going to improve and talk to so-and-so, that is so good because I felt like I needed to be really tough on the outside through middle school and high school. So it was like, no, you're not going to tell me that I'm not able to be in your clique. I don't want to be in your clique. And it's like super silly now, but I kind of have to work on shedding that sometimes where it's like, I don't need this. And
I don't need you.
Yeah. Before you shut me down, I'm shutting you down. And I know it just sounds so silly. And there's probably so many friendships I missed out on because I was putting up walls. But if we look at friends and say, this is something unique in my life that I can talk to you about this thing, or we go to hip hop class together, which I wouldn't do with somebody else, but maybe with them, I do something else that is also a facet of myself. So I just love that friendships and collecting friendships is like a way to commemorate that person in your life, but also grow and build yourself. And it's fun. I think it does take effort and time and somehow a part of yourself to be able to divide yourself out in a way to people. Once you add on people into your life, I think about the original phone plans, your fave 5. Do you remember that? You would pick your favorite 5 people. And I hated stuff like that because you're like, oh my gosh, I have to pick and choose. But that is true that you have 5 people in your life. We're all trying to add people onto our plate. And it's just this weird dance that you do with somebody else where you're like, so what's your involvement like? Are you somebody I can call on the phone? Or are you like a park date person? Or are you we pass in the hallway and give each other a high five? Or you just have different people coming in and it's okay. It doesn't mean that you have to be best friends with every single person, but you can have something that's special with that person. That was my take on it. I've always felt like Hanalei's been really good at that. You've been able to have the space in your life for lots of different people. And that's why I said it in the intro, where it's like states away, have over Instagram, even like you straddle both socials in person and over social media, which is not easy. And a lot of people feel super awkward on social media. So it's like a whole nother level, right? That's why we have you on today so that we can take some of that understanding and learn from that for ourselves.
I would actually love to hear your perspective on that, Hanalei. So obviously, like Carly said, it takes time and effort to develop friendships. And there's only so many hours that we have in a day, especially when you're a busy mom, right? You're like, okay, I don't have that much time. I have to get all these things taken care of. But you do want to have friends. We know that women need women. We really do need friendships. Is there a pecking order of importance for pursuing a deep friendship, like a best friend? Or do we need a network of friends? Or do we need both? And how do you prioritize your time for those relationships?
First, it's totally dependent on your personality. My husband is so funny. He's always slow to make friends, especially when we move somewhere new, because he's like, well, I have you. But he's also very outgoing. So yes, he does. And he does develop them eventually. But his pace of gaining friendships. For example, we moved from San Francisco to the Dallas area 4-ish years ago. And I feel like this is the most social he's ever been in our 4 years of living here. Whereas Carly and I think I moved in October. And when did we throw that first party at my house, that macrame making party?
Pretty sure it was November. I'm pretty sure it was as soon as you moved in. Well, first thing we did was at the couples of you and I and our husbands, we invited y'all to I don't know if you remember, to Dallas, but it was like to the Asian Arts Festival. And I was like, I know. And I was like, are they going to, I didn't even think about it. And I was like, now they're going to think that we just invited because they're Asian. And I'm like, oh gosh, like it was just coincidence.
I was hammering you for all the cool places to see because I'm such a traveler and I love to visit. And what's this city like? And I knew nothing about Texas and nothing about Dallas.
So funny because like I didn't know anything either. And I was like, okay, let's get to know it. Because I was like a homebody, you know, and I didn't even have any kids yet. I had no excuse. But it was so fun. So fun.
Yeah. In downtown Dallas, there's so much to do down there. Clyde Park. Oh my gosh. But anyways, I had been here a month and we had like 15 girls over doing an activity. And I was like, this is great. I have so many friends. Anyways, so it takes my husband like 4 years and it takes me like 1 month. So anyways, back to your question. It depends on your personality, but think about what things are important to you. So for example, my husband, who's not very social, he is very active. He likes to play basketball. Even right now, he's out playing spike ball with his friends. And last night, he was out playing basketball. So what are your interests? I love to travel. I want to see the city. And I'm a mom, so I want to make friends that maybe my kids can play with, but I also definitely need friends that, you know, what are my interests? Well, I like reading. I like to talk about books with girls. I love shopping. I love fashion. I like pop culture. I love interior design. So I'm going to gravitate to wanting people that can fill that cup for me. And hopefully I can do the same for them. You just look at your interests and how much you need social interaction, because it's totally fine if you're not super social, not going. But research has proven that your mental health is greatly improved by having friendships. And maybe your friendships are 2 people and that's all you need. And maybe it's 12 people and that's all I would need. No, I need more than that. Just kidding. So definitely it's very important, but you just gauge what you can handle. My husband, he's just like, I don't have the emotional energy to have that many people close to my life. And I'm just like, I have all the energy. I want to be friends with everyone, no matter where you live, even if we move apart. So definitely just depends on you, but it's very much worth your mental health. And also my friends bring so much joy to my life and they take me on adventures like Carly taking me downtown that I wouldn't have otherwise gone on if I hadn't known them. And so I have so many new experiences because of my friends. So just figure out how much you can handle emotionally, because it definitely takes emotional energy to have friends in your life, but definitely go after them. Find people that share interests with you.
As you're saying that, I have to say, I'm just having a thought come to my head. And I think this is important for anyone listening to be aware of. It's easy to hear a conversation back and forth between you two where you're talking about the things that y'all have done together. And I think the natural instinct as a woman is to hear something like that and be a little bit jealous that you don't have a relationship like that. And it's natural to feel like, oh, well, if I just had somebody that I was like that with, I would do those kinds of things. Or if I live close to Hanalei, we would be best friends because she sounds like the kind of friend I want to be friends with. Like, even as you're saying that, I'm thinking about Hanalei. I'm like, well, dang it. Why don't I live in Frisco so we can get together? And that,
Courtney, but you do so many things in Tucson that I hear about. And I'm like, ooh, that inspires me.
I guess that's what I'm saying is sometimes you hear about somebody else's situation and you can take that one of 2 ways. You can let that fester in your brain and you get a little bit jealous that you're not participating in something like that, that you don't have a friendship like that, or you can do something about it and make a friendship. It's really hard though. And it can be hard. There can be times when you live in a place where, you know, honestly, slim pickings, but you got to work with what you got. And that's a hard thing. I just want to say there's hope on the horizon. If you're listening to this and you feel like, but I don't have a friend right now. I've been looking for a friend. You never know. Start praying actively. I've had people tell me before that they would pray and then somebody would move into the area onto their street. And it was like they were the answer to their prayer, or that you see somebody and strike up a conversation. I know I have one friend who always tells me, I never meet any strangers. Everybody's a friend. And that's her outlook on life. there are no strangers. Everybody's my friend for the day. And so she calls everybody her friend for the day. And it's hysterical because I've seen her do this a million times. Like literally I had a ladies' night and she came to my ladies' night and a complete stranger to her, which was my neighbor, came, and they stayed the longest at this girls' night at my house. And they were talking until like 11:45 in my living room. And it was so funny because my husband's upstairs with the kids and he comes downstairs when everybody had left by midnight. And he's like, so who stayed? And I was like, oh, you'll never guess. And I was telling him, he's like, they don't even know each other. And I was like, I know, isn't that great? So give it your all. And it is hard, but don't be too disappointed if you're hearing this and you're feeling like, I don't have somebody like that, because you never know what friendship is there that you haven't invested in. And you never know who might move in down the street and you might need to invest in that relationship.
I didn't know if I was going to share this or not. I didn't think I was. But when I moved to Waco, I was so gung-ho to make friends. And coming off of the heels of Frisco in the Colony area, we were just having fun, you know? And
it's always a party up here.
Oh, I know. I got here and I'm like, let's go. Make an invite, make it graphic. It'll work out and have a theme. It's always like big themes all in. And so I wanted to do a skate night because they had this skating thing. So I thought that'd be super fun. After 8 p.m., kids are down, go skating, where it's just ladies, and go get ice cream afterwards. So I send it out to everybody. And the day comes and nobody wanted to go. And there was one lady who was like, I can't skate. And I'm actually lactose intolerant. So I can't have ice cream, but I want to get together. And I was like, oh. Oh. And I was talking to Courtney, like, it's fine. It's fine. And Courtney's like, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry, sister. I would be there if I were there. And I'm like, it's okay. I'm a grown woman. I can handle this. It's not a big deal. It is right before the holidays. There are all these reasons where I'm like, it just didn't work out. I still believe in the Waco group, right?
Okay, I wish you had invited me. I would have come down for skating. I was just thinking, I haven't done that in so long. How fun.
So I was telling Steele, my husband, I would have had a group come, even just because they felt bad for me or something. Anyways.
However you get to know them, that's fine.
Yeah. After that, I had somebody actually text back and be like, oh, was this an individual thing? I was like, yeah. And I realized I had sent out this graphic that I had made, and she assumed somebody else was putting it on. Like it was a public thing. And I was like, I wonder how many people thought that, because I always try to make some.
You made a custom graphic, and
I made a custom graphic, and it made people think I think
you're too professional for people, Carly.
And I was like, oh, it can't be so extra. I just need to send like a regular text, warm them up to it. You know,
simmer down.
Just, like,
you need to be extra.
Like,
no, you need to be your extra self.
And I'm saying simmer down.
I just gotta get to know. Anyways, I was like, yeah, that was me. I did it. Since then, I have continued going, finding a group with the high fitness gals and slowly building these friendships. It's all good. We've been friends, but sometimes you go to a new area and you just have to have a couple of awkward, stumbling moments. Just try again, because
get back in the arena.
Yeah, that was the day I posted the picture from the gals night that we had done, the Galentines. On the Instagram, you might remember, I like tagged everybody. I was like, I miss y'all. And it was just like crying it. Sorry, I know. I was like, maybe I shouldn't share this, and maybe we'll cut this later because I've gone on too long. But
no, I think it's important to note though, when that one person told you that she was lactose intolerant and that she couldn't skate, I do remember when you told me though, you were like, so I'm going to still do it. And I think the natural inclination would be like, well, then I'm just not going to do this. If nobody's coming, or if only one person is going to come, you're naturally kind of like, well, it's not worth my time. We're not even going skating. We're not doing the thing I'd originally want to do. But you still managed to go and just talk to somebody else. And I realized that wasn't what you'd envisioned in your head. But the fact that you still went forward, I think, is a huge testament to the fact that you're wanting to make friends. And when you're putting that out into the universe, it's going to come back. It's like a boomerang. You just never know when it's going to come back. In Hanalei's case, it comes back like a whiplash. 20 people at your house the first month you're there. Welcome home.
But 6th grade was hard.
That was because Carly knows how to get the word out.
Here's my next question for you. We've learned how it's helped you to develop into the woman you want to be. How has building friendships with other people helped you to develop a relationship with God?
I've thought a lot about this, particularly when it comes to social media, because as we all know, social media is a way that we connect with people and we keep in contact with people, but it could also have a lot of negatives. And I know a lot of people, and I'm not judging this choice at all, but I know a lot of people that are like social media is too negative. There's more negative than positive. So I'm eliminating it. I'm erasing it. And I've, of course, had that instinct where it's like, oh, this is so overwhelming. I can't keep up with it. Sucks a lot of time. And I have the urge to delete it and get off it altogether. Again, if you do that, I think that's a personal decision. But I have stepped away from wanting to completely sever social media because I feel like as a follower of Christ, I'm able to be an example to all these people that follow me in some way. Or every so often, maybe I'll post my testimony, or maybe I'll post something that's helped me through my life that will maybe help someone else. Even though the instinct to maybe just step away from it because it would be easier to handle, I've gone away from that because I feel like in some ways being a good friend to those around you is a way to be a missionary. To be a true follower of Christ is to be able to influence as many people as you can and to share the light of Christ with as many people as you can. And you can do that by being a good friend and by keeping friendships and keeping communication, because a big thing that I have learned through my growing faith in Christ is to see others how God sees them, and to see every single living soul as an important and meaningful and loved and special individual of our Father in heaven. It's hard for me or us mortals to comprehend that. Being a mother has helped me understand that love a little bit, but leaning on him to see everyone as they're important to him, therefore I'm borrowing that light and they're important to me through him. And also, I've had so many people influence and inspire me. On the one hand, I want to be able to influence and inspire others. And on the other hand, I've gone through really dark and hard and difficult times in my life, and I've needed to lean on them. So it's this relationship where you know that you can be there for others. And the more that you're there for others, the more they can be there for you. And we're all children of heavenly parents. We're all children of God, and he wants that for us. I have a friend group that we've been friends since, oh my gosh, 6th, 7th grade, all through high school. And we were so close in high school. And as we became adults, we all have had our own identities. We've changed our personalities, our beliefs, our core thing that brought us together. We've all developed into completely different people, but our friendship is still strong. It's gone through a lot. It's taken some beatings. There's been a couple years when it's been strained, but ultimately our different beliefs, our different lifestyles or whatever has not come between us having a shared love with each other, because we know that we're stronger when we keep those relationships and make efforts to be there for each other. And it's so worthwhile. The more love that you feel, the more you can feel God's love, in my opinion.
I love that. And I think it definitely ties to the title of today's episode as social light. And that's the light within us. That's the light of Christ that we can share with others. Also, our individual personality and what we can offer to other people is a light to them in times that might be dark for them. And the other way around, receiving the light from being social and putting yourself out there is really important too. As you said, Hanalei, before, that it's been proven that in our mental health and our state, it's really important to have those connections. For those that it doesn't come naturally to talk with someone, what are some things that they could do to develop the skill?
It's kind of funny. My really good friend from grade school and we wanted to write this book, How to Keep Your Friends in Your 30s, full of tips and tricks. It's kind of like when you become an adult and you're busy with your life, how do you still keep in contact? Because a lot of my friends, my really good best friends, are still in California, and some of them are scattered all over, but we care and love each other. How do we keep those going with busy lives? And we made this rough draft, and then last year we're like, okay, we're ready to pitch it to agents, and we're just sending it out to agents, which it's hard to even find agents to send it to, and we're just getting rejection, but there's still hope. So someday maybe you can buy our book, and that will give you lots of tips and ideas. No, just kidding. A big thing, like anything that you want to get better at, you need to practice, and you need to continue to get out there and maybe go up to someone who you think, oh my gosh, we should be totally best friends. And I've had this totally where it's like, I'm putting all this effort, I want to get to know this person, and then I just keep getting stonewall. Either they're not into this friendship, into me, or they're just not into having a friendship, or maybe they're going through something. So it's definitely not every time you do, it's going to be great. So practice, even though you have failures coming your way. And also put yourself out there. Like you referenced earlier, it's kind of like dating. What girl seems like we would be friends? I've met moms at the park where I'm like, oh my gosh, can I get your number? Let's meet again. And I'm like, this sounds so weird. Can I get your number? But I just met you at the park. I don't know how else to see you, but I'd like to meet up again. Definitely putting yourself out there means you're going to say dumb things. It means you're going to make mistakes. And that is only going to get better if you keep doing it. And I read this article about how it's this cycle of people are attracted to others who are confident, but you can't develop your confidence without having friendships that help your confidence. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but you need to continue to be putting yourself out there. And each time you do, you'll gain success and you'll be more confident. And then you'll be more attractive to other people who are looking for friends as well. And I love Stephen R. Covey. His books are so good. I totally recommend 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and also How to Win Friends and Influence People. But I love his takeaways, especially from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He just references how you need to be the kind of person that you want to attract. You need to be the kind of friend that you're looking for in others. Definitely think about how can I improve myself to not be more attractive, but how can I be better as a person so that I can attract and gain more friends that have the attributes that I like. So I would say practice, put yourself out there and be the kind of friend that you want to attract.
That comment about how people are attracted to people who are confident, but you have to gain confidence by talking to other people, that was like a big light bulb for me. I feel like that is so true. I love to be around people who are confident people, but they don't just become confident by being an expert napper their whole life. Got to kind of practice the yakking.
We also need more sleep. I feel like
a long way since kindergarten. It's fine. You're doing great.
And we did learn in an episode with Sierra working on my fitness. She talks about how important it is to get that sleep, those 7 hours a night to have healthy cortisol levels. Now that Hanalei is here to talk to us about the opposite side of that. No, not the opposite. I'm kidding. They work together. You can sleep and make good friends. But everything you just said, yeah, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to say some awkward things as we try and pursue friendships, especially coming out of this whole pandemic. The first time I try and talk to people after being in my house for a year, I felt so awkward. I didn't know how to strike up a conversation. Sometimes I even found myself when I was struggling, just being like, oh, that's your kid? You like, look, it's a child. I don't know what to say.
I forgot to add this one thing. I say practice. People are like, okay, what do you mean practice what? I have learned, as Carla said earlier, I major in communications, emphasis in broadcast journalism. In broadcast journalism, I was a reporter for the university and news channel. And you have a story, they give you a beat at the beginning of the day, and then you have until the end of the day to hand in your story. And I have to talk to so many people. And I realized if you want to get to know someone, if you want to do anything to improve a relationship or whatever, people like to talk about themselves. So ask questions that are about them. How are you adjusting to this new area? Do you have a pediatrician you can recommend? Or questions about people that will get the conversation flowing. If you're kind of awkward and you don't really know how to start something like that, I would definitely always say like questions. And you need to be a good listener as well. So remembering things, and sometimes it helps to, especially names like, hi, my name is Samantha. And then you repeat their name. Hi, Samantha. It's so great to meet you. And that will help you remember. If you're wondering, how do I practice? Ask questions about people. People love to talk about themselves and try and listen and remember. And if it helps, repeat things that they say to help you remember so that you can show that you're an active, engaged listener and that what they're saying is important.
Totally. I think we're all in this boat of learning and trying to improve in our interactions, especially post quarantining and all that's been going on during the pandemic. But if you're someone like me, I like reading. I like getting information from a reputable source that can at least go in my brain. Maybe I'm not very good at remembering verbatim what has been said, but it's something nice to reference just mentally and build up my confidence that way. So there's a book, it's called Captivate, and it's by Vanessa, I want to say Edwards, and she talks about how we can improve in our interactions. It's a little geeky if you think about it. It goes a little in depth into things, but if that's something that you want to have on hand or reference, that was something that I read that helped me.
I love audiobooks, so I'll add it to my wish
Yes,
list.
it's on Audible.
I want to get the title of that book that you're working on again, Hanalei. Say that title again. It was called Keeping Friends in Your 30s.
Yeah, How to Keep Friends in Your 30s.
That sounds so fun.
We haven't, we're working on the title. Maybe that's a little too long. But obviously, at any stage of life, the tips that we have in our book would be helpful probably at any stage. But I think it's just catchy because we happen to be in our 30s and you're relearning how to make friendships. It's completely different than when you're in college or any other time of your life.
It is. I liked what you were saying about when you're talking to other people and saying their name back to them. I find that's really helpful for me. And listening, man, when you ask somebody a question and then you tune out, you got to work on that. Especially as a mom, I'm really good at tuning out. So when I'm talking to another woman, I'm like, oh, I can't do to them what I sometimes do to my kids at home. I can't just have the podcast on in my ear. I got to actually listen to what they're saying and try and recall the name they just told me. I actually take both of my girls to gymnastics, and that world is kind of known as not being the nicest world for parents. There's even a movie, I think the quote from the famous gymnastics movie, it's like, it's not called gymnastics. Carly's mouthing it as I'm saying it. So I'm trying really hard to make friends with these moms that are in this little parent viewing area. For the most part, I'm finding that there are some really kind people who want to talk. There are some who don't, and that's okay too. There's a very intense crowd there, but there's also a crowd that wants to talk, wants to get to know you. And I have literally kept on my phone a notes log where I just write down people's names and what their kids' names are, because when I go back, I don't want to be that person every time who's like, oh, remind me your name again. Because I think if you do it once or twice, there's some leniency there. But if on the third and fourth time, you're like, remind me your name again, they're like, you actually don't care. So I don't really want to keep trying to remind you of my name. It's obviously not important to you. So I've tried to keep notes so that I help myself remember.
And have confidence that you can be the one to remember their name, because it's hard also being the person who's like, hey, we were in kindergarten together. Do you remember? They look at you like you were a crazy person. So it's good to be that person. Be proud of it in a way too, because sometimes we have the tendency to get a little, oh, I showed my cards first and it wasn't a match. And they probably only feel bad that they didn't remember, and just go from there. It's fine.
It's true. I went to a girls' night for a friend. She was having a cookie exchange. And there was one other person there in this group of 13 women that I recognized because she was there at this same friend's kid's birthday party 12 months ago. I mean, it was a long time ago, but the friend's name was Cassidy. And I remembered her name because our youngest sister's name is Cassidy. So when I'm at this cookie exchange and I see her, I'm like, hi, it's Cassidy, right? And I said it and she looked at me, she goes, you look familiar. And I was like, yeah, and I only remember your name because it's my youngest sister's name. I'm not like a freak. And I'm like, why did I have to tell her that that's the only reason I remembered her name? Why can't I just own it that I remember her name? I don't need to feel silly that I'm caring enough to remember her name. But I did. I felt that sense of like, oh, I just really made her feel like I am a creep, you know?
At least it was the right name, because I've totally had it where I said the wrong name with full bold assertion. It was Brittany, and it was so not Brittany. And now I can't remember what her real name was because for some reason I had like miswired. She's like, that's actually not my name. Cool. Okay. Moving on.
Well, we could probably talk about this topic all day, and I am loving it so much. So Hanalei, to help us wrap this up though, what other tips, tricks, important messages do you have for our sisterhood about the importance of building friendships and being a social light?
Gosh, I feel like we covered so much in this podcast. Just smiling and looking approachable, I will say, goes a long way. It's really hard because sometimes when you're zoning out or you're not realizing, you might be putting on a face that is a little closed off, or maybe it looks sad, but you're really just thinking about something that you ate yesterday and you're wondering, like, anyways, I would say just try your best to look inviting, look approachable, look people in the eyes, smile at them. And that will go a long way of people feeling comfortable and like, oh, she's someone I can go up to and ask if she wants to get together or ask for advice or whatever. That was probably one thing that I had thought of sharing. Just be yourself, because there might be some girls and some people that you want to be friends with, and because of your personalities, they just don't work out. And that's totally okay. They're being themselves. You be yourself. You will attract the kind of people that are right for you. And so you win some, you lose some, but the ones you win, they're worth it. So just look approachable, smile, look people in the eyes, and you'll get some friendships going.
So, Hanalei, yes, definitely gotten a whole lot of information here that we want to put into play in our lives, but probably be helpful to have maybe one key thing that we can do this week. We typically have for our sisterhood a call to action. So what would you recommend as the call to action this week?
Okay, I know a lot of you are in different circumstances. You're in different phases of life. You're in different comfort levels of being outgoing or not. One thing that I would like you all to do this week is think of that one person that you've been meaning to reach out to. Maybe it's a longtime friend and you haven't talked to them in a while and you want to call them on the phone. Maybe it's someone who you know is going through a hard time and you keep meaning to reach out and get together for lunch, reach out to them. Maybe you're in a brand new place, you just moved somewhere and you don't know anyone and you've seen a couple ladies either at work or at the park or at church and you've been meaning to go up and just start a conversation and introduce yourself and say hello. So whatever phase of life you're in, I am calling you out this week. Go and do it. Go and reach out to that person that you've been meaning to reconnect with or to make a friendship with or to just talk to. And I'm sure the sisters would love to hear about any experiences that you've had from that call to action. And I will do this to myself. I will think about some people I've been meaning to reach out to, and I'll definitely reach out to them.
Perfect. And of course, we as a sisterhood want to hear about our sisters' experiences. So thank you so much for that wonderful call to action, Hanalei. Sisters, we are excited to hear your experiences, striking up a conversation with that person that you've been meaning to, or reconnecting with that old friend that you've been postponing for some reason. Go be a socialite and take that next step towards friendship.
Hanalei, we're all just loving this great conversation we've been having, feeling like better friends here. And I know our sisters are going to feel that same way, that same kind of growing bond. Where can they find you on social media to get to know you?
My handle is @foggydress on Instagram. I used to live in San Francisco. It's a very foggy city and a Southern California girl, which if you don't know, Southern California is very different than Northern California. And it's cold. When it's foggy, it's freezing cold. And so anyways, the handle just came about when I realized, how do I dress for this foggy weather? And it's kind of stuck. So find me at foggydress. Message me. Let's be friends. Let's hang out. Let's get together.
Love it. Don't forget to join us next week for our month of love in February. And I cringe a little as I say that word. This won't be your sultry romantic type of love. We're talking practical love for the busy mama, trying to keep all those plates spinning. We're going to be talking about the importance of double and group dates, the relationship you have with yourself after having a baby, loving and spending time with extended family, and also loving your own home. We're really excited for next month. So sisters, join us next month. And Hanalei, again, thank you so much for joining us today. We've loved having you. Have a great week, everyone.
Thanks, sisters.
Today is our finale. How do you say that word?
Finale.
Finale. Okay.
If that gives you any idea for our relationship.
That's so funny.
I will never get an Android. He will never get an iPhone. We will just always have phones that we can't text each other pictures and videos to.
We have the same thing going on. My husband's an Android and I'm the iPhone, but I'm only a recent iPhone and it's been a learning curve this whole past year.
I had still switched to iPhone when we were first married, and he regrets it, but he can't go back now, you know?
I regret it.
So don't let him talk to your husbands and be like, don't do it.
We need to have an episode just on iPhones and Androids and how we can all still get along. And
I don't know, because like I love that Courtney's now blue on my thing and I can react. She hates it because I love reacting to things, and Courtney like hates it. I'm always like, and move on. And she's like,
that is
I need words. I need words, Carly. This is not enough.
I'm telling you, that is the lowest form of communication. Like or thumbs up or thumbs down. Something.
It's like a response you would have. I don't have to say words back to you. I give thumbs up, like a perpetual thumbs upper. It's the same way.